The moon in Libra is a very, very diplomatic placement. Indeed, it's very, very diplomatic. It's very, very peaceful. It's very, very loving. And it has that need for beauty in it. It is so remarkable. This need for beauty is astringent and potent and intense and very, very much strong in its very nature of what it does. And so in this episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast, I'm going to be discussing the moon in Libra because I have the moon in Libra in my natal birth chart and sort of some of the dynamics going on with this lunar placement. We'll get delving into this of what's really, really going on. And it begins at the source. And what I'm going to be discussing today is the qualities of this placement, what it means that somebody has it in the natal birth chart. So delving right in. The very, very first thing that we need to know about the moon in Libra is that possibly the moon is, first of all, our emotional content. It represents our intuition, our feelings, our innermost emotions, what we feel on an internal, visceral level. What we feel inside of ourselves. What we feel like we want to express out there, but from an internal feminine place. Libra is the sign of the scales, the sign of balance and harmony. So you can put these two together. You can formulate a person who embodies both these lunar and these Libran Venusian qualities. So the moon in Libra has maybe the guardians needed them. Maybe the guardians held on to them with moon in Libra. Maybe their guardians held on to the very nature of what they have to give and what they have to provide. Maybe they had a lot of need for them to be there in the sort of place of sort of where they need to be. And their guardians really, really needed and relied upon them for their emotional content, for their emotional nourishing, for their peaceful skills, for their relationship skills. For them to be there for the guardians instead, for their emotional needs, instead of the Libra moon, the guardians being there for the Libra moon's emotional needs growing up. So there is this quality of needing to become old when you are young, needing to age really, really well when it comes to being there for the adults when the time is necessary. So this could be the way it is, that's partially what it is. And then this moon placement really, really creates a very, very diplomatic person. The moon and Libra people in general are very, very diplomatic. They want fairness, they want justice, they want peace, they want to negotiate things out to make a peaceful solution. So they are deeply diplomatic. And what does it mean to be diplomatic? It is really about tact, having tact and sensitivity to handle the difficult stuff without any kind of offense, is what it says here. Without conflict, without battle, without too much drama going on. And I'm going to define tact because I've had conversations with a family member about this particular word. And it's really about tact is not about sacrificing who you are and what you want to say, what you want to authentically say from your heart and soul. what is true to you to say, what is true for you to come out of your mouth, to say, to speak about, to be very, very open and transparent with. Tact comes from the soul. That's how you define tact. It's not holding in any truth that you want to say. So I think we have a little bit of a disagreement about this. Because the new belief is the soul. And when you are from your soul, I think that you'll find that you are tactful, that you say it very, very kindly, you say it very, very honestly, in a kind, loving way, because the soul is, after all, kind and loving. So if you're coming from your soul, you're coming from a very, very tactful place. So, you're delivering the absolute authenticity. You're being fully authentic, but not ego. That's the thing with tact. And yeah, so that is what tact is. So I thought I'd define that to sort of correct some definitions around tact. It's not a thinking thing. It's not a logical thing. You're not thinking it up. You're not, trying to overthink how you're going to deliver this message in the most way that's going to help others or make others feel better or be in others' good graces or, to be liked in the eyes of others, but to really, really not be so defensive and so angry and so, selfish, really, but to come from a more loving place with what the truth you are delivering. Delivering truth with sort of, delivering the absolute truth, the real and raw truth, but in a kind and loving way. That's what tact is. So let's make that very, very evidently clear right now. So, so there's this need for them to be diplomatic. They love what is beautiful. They love all the beauty in the whole wide world. All the beautiful things. All the pretty trees and flowers and daffodils, and, all the fun things. And they want to create balance and harmony in their relationships. That's what they strive for. Is balance and harmony. They ultimately want to put in balance and harmony to whatever that they are doing. Because balance and harmony are Libra qualities, because Libra is ruled by the scales of justice. And so having balance and harmony is really, really huge with being able to balance out the perspectives, balancing out all different sides of the coin, all different sides of an issue, balancing out these things very, very well, and having harmony, being able to carry the chimes, carrying the charming qualities of carrying beauty along in your pathway. And so it sort of processes its feelings through relationships. Relationships is a key focus of Libra, because Libra is the sign of relationships. It rules over relationships. And so it tends to process these things over the course of relationships, with that being the focus here. So it has its feelings through this kind of way. So a lot of its feelings and a lot of its emotions of what it feels and what it goes through are through relationships. And it wants emotional harmony and balance. It needs harmony, relationship harmony, and balance. And I'm going to look up harmony. and peaceful cooperation, and mutual understanding. I mean, at best, Libra wants to create a better world. Libra wants to create a more loving, more peaceful, more beautiful world where everyone is getting along, they're open-minded, they're, having peace. At the best, they're authentic to themselves, and they're also mutually respecting each other for being authentic to themselves, not having to conform to certain social rules of having to be diplomatic and fair and graceful and very kind or charming or whatever, having to follow these social etiquette rules, having to put on this appearance and do all of this, which Libra is ruled by Saturn, exalted by Saturn. Saturn's exalted in Libra, can really, really get stuck into all the conditions of being told, what to think, what to believe, how to act in social situations. That really makes up for a lot of definition of that. And so it wants to create beautiful, balanced environments and connections with this nice balance of different things. There's nice peace, the aesthetics, so that you're finding colors that match another color. And I just wanted to find all these terms. Here. Balance. Maybe the colors on the wall complementing other colors on the wall. One color over here has a certain color, and then other colors are having those same complementary elements to them. So they want to create beautiful, balanced environments, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing environments, and connections that are kind, connections that are harmonious, connections that are balanced. Really, really wishes to create all of these things. Really, really easily. So, it's very, very courteous. It's really, really, courteous, fair-minded. This is what it tends to be. It's what it tends to be. Is very, very fair-minded, and it wants to make everyone feel comfortable. Libra moons want to make everyone feel harmonious and comfortable in that kind of a thing. In that kind of a way. So that's what they want. And so that fair-mindedness is really, really huge with this placement. It thinks for the greater good of others. Wants to think in a very, very fair way. It wants to think for others and not just for itself. It wants to think for justice and equality, and very, very courteous, very, very kind, very, very polite. And there's this desire for a beautiful environment, a beautiful, harmonious environment, peaceful relationships where everyone's getting along, everyone's loving each other, everyone's mutually loving each other, and finding balance and understanding in their own lives. in their own individual lives, finding that balance, finding that peace, finding that equilibrium going on here. And so with the Libra moon, you naturally consider others' feelings. You naturally consider the feelings of others. You naturally take what they feel and what they want, what they believe into account. You take what's going on with them, into account, and you want to maintain balance and harmony with these individuals, where you're not just having your own feelings at play, but you're also having others' feelings be there. You're also considering others' feelings, how others are feeling, what's on others' mind. You're really, really considering others. And you want to have, again, harmony. Now, there may be some indecision going on here, because the downside of the moon in Libra is being so indecisive that you can't make a decisive decision on what you want to do, because you're not necessarily thinking of just yourself, you're thinking of everyone involved in seeing what is fair and what is right for not just me, but everyone else, involved in that. So, there is this quality of needing to be decisive and not in the indecision, about considering all these different perspectives, because Libra moon can be really, really, indecisive. It can be really, really indecisive. Having all these opinions, over here and over there, and everyone thinking these different things, and being caught in this person's opinion and what they want and what they think, and then the other person's opinion, what they want, getting caught in all these opinions and all these types of things like that. But all these different perspectives and opinions, with not being certain around how you want to act in a harmonious way. That's really what it is about, with acting in these kind of ways, because it's about acting with harmony, with greater harmony. You seek the balance point which honors everyone's needs equally, everyone's needs and feelings and opinions are getting taken into account. You want to create a lot of harmony. You don't fully understand your emotions until you've discussed them, until you've voiced them, until you've allowed them to sit at the table, until you've been authentic about what you're actually feeling, what you're actually going through on an emotional level, talking about them with others, or having them show up in relationships. Having these emotions show up in relationships very, very easily. And these relationships may put themselves in relationships. They may appear inside of relationships. You may necessarily see them in this context and see them in this light. And so, you want to create beauty in your world. There's this need to create beauty, beautiful surroundings, spending time in beautiful environments, settle pleasing environments. You want to fix relationship conflicts. Libra is all about the diplomat wanting to fix the conflict that exists in relationship, existing the divide that exists, fixing this, healing this, changing this, making it better, fixing any difference or disagreement or cause of frustration and tension in those relationships that have occurred. And so relationships are very, very huge with not causing conflict or emotional instability. There needs to be peaceful relationships with the moon in Libra, where there's not a whole lot of conflict at all, battle and fighting and all of that, or a lot of emotions and dramatic. And I think that one of the lessons of Libra is you can express truth in a diplomatic and kind way. You don't have to just hold in your truth just for the sake of keeping the peace and just for the sake of harmony and beauty and everyone to be happy and for the walk through it. That's the shadow side of Libra. At best you don't suck it in, quote unquote. You don't hold anything in, but you express it from a self-centered place. You express it in an honest, transparent way. We're transparent about whatever you want to say, but it's not coming from an egoic place. That's what you need to remember about Libra energy at the high road. And where you can express truth and where you can show up and have diplomatic conversations, where you don't need to fight, you don't need to get into arguments and battle and all those kind of things, but you can show up to fight and have conflict and have a conversation where you're listening to each other, where you're speaking on what you feel authentically, and they're understanding where they're coming from. They're speaking on what they feel like they want to say, and then they're listening, kind of like an episode of Super Nanny that I was seeing, where she had a bottle of water that she took to the kitchen of this one family, and they were arguing and they were talking over each other, and so she had the bottle flipped over to one side, and one person spoke and then the other listened, and then the bottle turned over to the other side, and then this person spoke and then the other listened. So you see kind of this quality of Libra energy where you're communicating in a tactful way. You're responding as opposed to reacting emotionally, and you're not choosing to be in the fighting, mad rage state. Where you're choosing to not suppress your emotions, not deny or hold down whatever you're feeling, to express all of it, but in a loving way. And that's the high road of Libra energy, because the high road is to be able to be authentic to yourself and to attend to relationships and to have this be one in the same and not two separate things. And so the high road Libra can really, really step into this kind of quality of showing diplomacy in relationships in this way. You don't want relationships where there's a whole lot of conflict and fighting, and we ultimately don't want conflict. We do want peace. But peace is not just holding in your truth and suppressing it and just being afraid that expressing your truth is going to rock the boat. No, it is actually forming true peace and harmony through showing up to conflict willingly and expressing what's true for you in your heart. That's what tact is. That's what it means to be tactful. Tactful and being true to yourself are connected. They're not opposite, or they're not opposed. They're not just juxtaposed terms. So, you want togetherness and fairness. With the moon in Libra, there's this need for togetherness and justice and harmony. And you don't want competitive environments with this placement. For those with this placement, you don't want any fighting environment where one person's trying to win or trying to be better than the other, where they're fighting for the same, an equal slice of the pie, or like siblings, how they fight over, one slice of the pie and then the other fights, and and there's this battle for all these different things. not these very, very competitive Aries-like environments where they fight for be the winner, and there's somebody just being very, very selfish and controlling and stubborn and all this, and everybody has to keep the peace and just circle all around them in order to not to rock the boat, in order to not, they have to hold and suppress their truth in order to not make this person mad, in order to cause peaceful surroundings. That's not a healthy environment. That's not a Libra environment. And so we have to recognize the shadow of Libra and the upside of Libran environments. The high road of Libra, the more beautiful, graceful side of Libra, and then the suppressing, inauthentic side of Libra. And I think that's fairly authentic to want relationships, to want to be together with others, to want to socialize, to want to come together and form healthy relationships. Like, that's all very, very, true for us in all those kind of ways. And so, you want colors that please you. You want beautifully, aesthetically beautiful colors. That's also something very, very important. The colors make a lot of difference to you. You want, harmonious environments. And, you want nice things to give you, emotional balance. You want all those things, really. So you want all those things to give you balance. And, and you often recognize the harmony and beauty that you create. Really recognizing that is huge. You can surround yourself with beautiful spaces, which bring you a better sense of emotional balance and happiness, because the space really, really affects you. Showing their emotional feelings. Maybe the adults or the guardians in your life or your parents displayed these emotional feelings to you, and displayed all these things, in a way where most adults and kids wouldn't be able to withstand those kind of emotions. But you just got fed into that. You just got indoctrinated, and you just got sort of in the soup, and it blended together, and there were no boundaries, and you came together, and it falsified, and it blended into one mixture with your feelings and then their feelings. And so, you see a lot of expectations for being an adult, being very, very mature, being very, very, having to be old when you're young, to be expected as something that you can achieve, something that makes sense to achieve, even though you're meant to be a kid. You're meant to be very, very mad, push the limits, take risks. Well, not be very, very mad, but just express your emotions openly, have a safe, loving childhood, instead of a one where you have to grow up and be, be just an adult to everyone else. Adult in addition to everyone else, instead of just being a kid, instead of just being growing up. And so you sort of had there's this quality here of acting older than you were in childhood, acting older than you really, really were, and expressing those qualities at a younger age, expressing older qualities. You were treated as equal to adults. You and adults were equal. You were probably treated not any different from adults. You're just probably treated the same kind of similar ways. This made you feel neglected, like your own emotions and your own feelings and your own needs, wants, and desires weren't acknowledged, because you had to just give and be harmonious and be open and be willing to negotiate with others, with the adults. So there's this sort of there's this sort of negative conditioning where you were just fed into that instead of, you being a kid for your own sake. And it takes a long time to sort of heal these patterns. And so, there's a strong need here for authority figures and parents to like you. You want to be liked and loved in the eyes of others, especially, parents. So you sort of work things out with the adults. You sort of, talk and negotiate and do all these things. You add comfort to their lives. Add comfort to, what they're doing. Add comfort to what you want to add to their lives. It's something that you want to add to their lives. Really adding a lot of depth and comfort, and peace to that. And you want people want people with way more power than yourself or much older than yourself. Who sort of show this grand image, this grand way of being. It's very famous, very up in the charts way of being, to love you. You want these people to love you and appreciate you, and see you for who you are, maybe on a more romantic relational level. So there's this quality of not liking people, not liking certain people. You may, not like certain people, have a really strong feeling against these certain people, against who they are, against how they act, against how they present themselves, against how they behave, against how they treat you. But yet you do everything you can to gain their favor. You do everything you can to gain their love, and gain their respect, and gain their attention, and gain their care, with really loving you for who you are. You do everything to win them over. And when it comes down to really liking someone, really liking somebody, also on the contrary, and then wanting to move away from them, wanting to as I was reading, it was saying distancing yourself away from the people that you really like, but wanting to distance because Libra is sort of caught between being an individual. Libra has to deal with this whole life with being. There is Libra polarity. Am I going to be more an individual, more sovereign, more true to myself, more authentic to who I am, or am I going to show up in relationships and be balanced, and be harmonious, and have diplomacy and all these kinds of things? So really, it's about balancing these two things out, and really liking with not distancing yourself from these individuals. And so the relationship needs to show sort of equal amounts of power, equal amounts of control and power, so that one person doesn't have a much bigger slice of the pie than the other, where the relationship is equal. Everyone is responsible for how they show up in relationships. Everyone is responsible for their own sense of power, for their own sense of authority with how they show up, how they live, how they go about the relationship, how they manage the relationship, how they behave in the relationship. They are responsible for their own sense of power that they carry. So it's about speaking your truth, being not afraid to speak your truth of what you're really feeling in the relationship, and not being afraid to speak your mind. Speaking your mind. God forbid you should speak your mind. Speak what you're really feeling in this relationship. Speak if somebody's hurting you, or somebody's treating you badly, or if somebody's making you feel better, if somebody's really making you feel wrong, or judging you, or getting down on you, or being mean to you, or whatever they're doing. Whatever they're doing. Can you speak your mind? And not be afraid to rock the boat. So what if you rock the boat? You were true to yourself, you spoke your mind, and that rocked the boat. It's sort of like, there's cracks in the road, but eventually, if you keep walking down that road further, you'll find that the road gets even and smooth again. There's meant to be conflict and disagreement before you can get to the harmony, the togetherness, the oneness that Libra so desperately wants. And this is a need that Libra has, and that these are all beautiful qualities of the sign of Libra. But if the authenticity piece is not there with Libra energy, then it's just at the low road. It's just at very, very, not a very, very good energy, and it can get into some shadows, shadow sides. So being true to yourself, it's about being honest with yourself, that you didn't have, that you weren't mature enough on an emotional level to truly see where you had missteps, truly see where you were in the wrong, where you did things wrong, where you did all these kind of things. Where you can express your true feelings, even if they may create disharmony in your life. Expressing these feelings out very, very easily, very, very openly, even if the disharmony will be there. And understanding that real peace and harmony involves being true to yourself and expressing your real emotions. It's one of the shadows of this lunar placement is me as a Libra moon needing to be true to myself, my own emotions. I have my Aries sun to help me to be true to myself and all that. So I'm not people pleasing. I'm not. I don't fall into those shadows at all. And my moon is at 26 degrees of Libra, so it's pretty evolved as a lunar placement. So with this real peace and harmony, with you being true to yourself, expressing how you really feel in the relationship, expressing what you don't have to fight about it. Expressing real emotions of being true to yourself doesn't mean being selfish or hurting others in relationship, or not having peace and harmony, not getting along with others. Quite the opposite. You need to express your real emotions in order to actually get along with others, in order for them to truly see and understand how you feel. Were you expressing your true voice, them understanding how you feel, in order for you to talk about things, talk about what needs to be talked about, to form the true peace and harmony on the other end of that. So that's what we need to keep in mind with Libra energy. And so it's about making decisions without needing all these opinions, without needing all these sides of the decision, because Libra can get into Libra at the lower can get into making decisions, being very, very indecisive with everyone's opinion and weighing out what this person said, what this person said over here, what this person weighing out all these different opinions, all these different ideas, all these different points of view, to try to formulate something in between that is harmonious, that is fair and balanced for the greater good of all, the greater good of everyone. But you leave your own feelings and your own opinions and your own truth out of the picture, and you need to include that in the picture of it. And just being decisive, not being caught in indecision, but just having the courage to just take action in your life and make decisions, for yourself. Trusting that when you make decisions and when you're authentic to yourself, you will come from a loving place, and you will naturally consider others in that process. So, retrospect. In retrospect, you may be feeling very, very guilty for yourself, like, I shouldn't have made mistakes, I shouldn't have treated this person badly, I shouldn't have done this because it, or on the other end, I shouldn't have pleased, I shouldn't have been so, fake in a way, where I wasn't true to myself, and I wasn't, sharing my real feelings or whatever. This is, what Libra comes after Virgo, and there's this beautiful, picture. There's this need for perfection, whatever side of the spectrum it falls on, with the needing to be true to yourself and authentic and not please. But then also, on the other end of it, not giving enough harmony and not enough cooperation and consideration, and sympathy in that kind of way. So, that's what has to be very, very huge when it comes to the retrospect perspective. And so, you're allowed to throw sort of a holy fit and temper tantrums in a way, growing up, or whatever the holy fit and temper tantrums come up in adult form, whatever the anger, the emotions, or you're really expressing your emotions openly, whatever you're feeling openly. And I'm expressing the emotion of anger properly. Expressing anger in a proper way, in a very, very open, authentic way, not a false self-ego way, and not holding your anger in, maybe expressing it in constructive ways, doing all this, but not holding your anger inside of yourself, but openly expressing that anger in a way that's to the high road and not the low road of Aries energy. Because there is this really, really destructive, very, very low primal quality with Aries energy that we don't want to get caught into on the shadow side of Aries. But that doesn't mean just holding in your anger and repressing your emotions. Not going to extremes with either side of the Aries Libra axis. But leaning into your own instincts, leaning into your own emotions, feeling them, expressing them, and being true to yourself with these emotions inside of you. So this is what I have to say about the moon in Libra, and then, birth chart. Hopefully you find this interesting. And I hope that you found some value out of this video and what I had to say here and what I had to share here. And I will see you on the next episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast, where tomorrow I'm going to be talking about, since I have more time tomorrow at home, maybe I'll talk about, I think I want to talk about Saturn in Libra tomorrow. So I talked about the moon in Libra here, and then I'll talk about Saturn in Libra with the whole relationship issue deal. So I'll be sort of overlapping the similar conversations. I was going to talk about it today, but I just kind of woke up late, and I just wanted to do something easier for myself today, and then I will really, really be disciplined and wake up at the right time to do that video on Saturn in Libra, because I really, really delved deep into that placement, continue the Saturn series. And so anyway, bye for now, everyone.